everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Versus 5 with me, the United City FM. Welcome along. So, what is Versus 5? It's a 2-team competition in Football Manager 21, 5 content creators on each team, one representing the United Kingdom and one representing the rest of the world, a bit like the Ryder Cup in golf. Then one person from each of those 2 teams is matched up against each other with a different challenge in each of the 5 matchups. My matchup is against Old Lady Plays, and we have Sassuolo in Italy to see if we can get the most amount of points in the league. So let's get into it. So, welcome to Sassuolo in Italian's Serie A. And the object, as I say, is to get the most amount of league points. We've got our first game today against Spezia in the Serie A. But before that, we're going to look at both the transfer dealings of the transfer window just gone and also the friendly results that we've just been through to build up to the season. So in truth, I decided not to do an awful lot in the transfer market. I thought that it's best in a one-season series at this point. If I can't really improve the squad hugely with who I can bring in, and I really couldn't find too much, then I thought I would stick with what we've got. Sassuolo did a couple of things before the season, before I came to the club, should I say, in terms of a few transfers themselves. So it didn't mean that I had a lot of room to play with financially, and it also meant that I thought any more obstruction to getting a good team performance, I thought it was best if we just kept it simple. So that's what I did. Not many went out from my reign. Most of these on loan were done before I even got to the club. There's a couple that I got rid of, but not really anybody of any significance. And to be honest, I only bought 2 in myself. And the first of those is Fabio Vieira, and he is a right-sided player. He can play through the middle or the right-hand side. He's going to be my right-hand side wing rotation option. So he comes into the club, and I think there's enough about him to suggest that he can do a reasonable job in rotation on that right side of midfield in a formation that we'll talk about in a minute when we go and look at the pre-match tactics. So he comes into the club, 20 years old, got enough about him, I would suggest, to think that he's going to do okay for us. But this is the star of my transfer window, and we bought him in for £13 million from Young Boys, and it's Jean-Pierre and Sammy. And he is going to be either the first choice striker, and he'll certainly potentially start that way, or a rotation option off the bench here and there. Also, occasionally might just play as a front 2 as well. It's what brings us options into the club. The strike force wasn't particularly strong. We've got one other very good striker at the club, but the rest of them I thought were a bit average, to be honest. I felt we needed a little bit more in terms of options off the bench or in rotation, but also, as I say, potentially playing a 4-4-2 occasionally and putting 2 up top, especially if games are getting away from us at times. So this guy comes in, and I think he's got a reasonable amount about him, to be honest. 16 finishing, 15 heading. Off the ball is great. A little bit of pace, enough about him. Some good determination. And I think he's going to do okay. So he becomes another option in the striking position. And that is pretty much all I decided to do in the transfer market. There is still time. We've still got a few days left because the transfer window in this first season runs through to October, I think. So there is still time. If one of our big boys goes, in terms of big clubs coming in for our better players, we can always do another deal or 2 if need be. But so far, that's all I've done. Now, what that ultimately all led to, the transfer window and the setup of a tactic that we still, I know, haven't got to so far, is a very good set of friendly results against some reasonable opposition here and there. We beat Parma, which is really great. We beat today's opponent, Spezia, who are promoted from Serie B this season, so that's where they've come from this year. We lost to Inter Milan, but you'd kind of expect it, but only 3-2, and it was before we got everybody set settled and sorted in terms of how we were going to play, and also a couple of the transfers as well coming in. So ultimately, I'm really happy with the amount of games that we won, also the amount of goals that we scored, which probably means that now we get to the competitive matches, it will all dry up and we won't score for 4 games or something. But who knows? We'll see whether we can get off to a better start than that. I think the schedule has actually been quite kind to us. I mean, we played the likes of Atalanta in game 3, but we have to wait a little bit till we get to the likes of Inter and Zebra, who are Juventus in this particular series. So yeah, I think the schedule has been pretty good. Friendlies have been excellent. So let's see if we can get off to a good start in the first competitive match. So I guess a little unsurprisingly, for a one-season series where we have to get the most amount of points, we're going to be using a couple of different tactics, but primarily we're going to be going in quite attacking with the gegenpress. It's on a balanced mentality, but I do expect this team to push high up the pitch, try and win it high, and then counter-attack from that point quite high up and try and get some opportunities through that. But if that doesn't work in any way, or we go down in a match and we need to keep the ball better maybe, or we need to see out a game, then we can always revert to the 4-3-3 and play a vertical tiki-taka, which I quite like to play and implement as well. And these 3 central midfield players, whilst they're not quite in the right positions as we speak, the 3 of them can be moved around and played in both of these formations. So that's going to work out pretty well on the fly for us. The third one I haven't put in just yet. I'm still working on it a little bit, but it will be a 4-4-2 just to get those 2 strikers up front. The second striker in the club that's worth it being this guy. Let's see if we can click on him. Caputo, 33 years old, Francesco Caputo, got a lot of experience, a little bit lacking in pace, a little bit, but good finishing, some very, very good mentals, which is great to have. Penalty taking is good as well. So he will rotate in and out with Nsame in terms of the number 1 position, but play together occasionally when we need them to. So that is a good string to our bow. So ultimately, those are the formations and tactics that we're going to be using. There's not a huge amount more to tell you. These players are such that I don't know most of them, but you'll know a couple of them. Locatelli, everybody seems to really know and has played probably occasionally here and there as he progresses in the game. 22 years old, central midfield player. I think he's got enough about him to be worthwhile for us this season. And I suspect the bigger star is this guy, Berardi, and he plays out wide right or as an attacking striker if we want him to. There's an option there to play him if we get injuries or whatever the case may be. So he's going to play off the right wing primarily, but can potentially be a superstar for us with the long shots and the first touch, etc. There's a good player in here. I expect big things from him. I expect big things from most of them. We've got a good setup. It's not amazing, but I think we're going to do all right. So in terms of starting lineup for today's match, and you'll have to bear with me, some of these names are a little bit complicated and I don't know them all just at the moment. So we're going with Consigli in goal. We've got Toljan at right fullback, Kyriakopoulos. Yep, I'll get better at that one. He's at left back. Marlon and Chiriches in central defence. Lopez, Locatelli and Juricic in central midfield with Berardi on the right, Boga on the left and Nsame up top. And pretty much everybody else on the bench. In Serie A this season, you can have 12 on the bench. So we've pretty much named everybody else. And as we get injuries, it will just diminish the bench, nothing more than that. So there we go. That's how we're going to set up. Let's get into today's match and see what happens. So at home and potentially favourites for this particular match, as I say, against an opposition that have been promoted into Serie A for this season, I've pumped my fists and I've said, let's give the performance that expected of us today. I hope that that kind of just boosts the morale a little bit, gets them really excited about playing potentially. We're going to be mostly playing in a green strip this season. If you don't know Sassuolo, they play in a green top and dark shorts, I believe, like black shorts maybe. We'll check that out in a second. There's the Serie A table with nothing having happened yet really, other than Juventus having had an early win. and the players come out onto the pitch. I don't know what sort of crowd we're going to get or anything. It doesn't look to be full, does it really? But there we go. Green tops, black shorts, and we get off to a very early start with Bogger down the left-hand side, and he cuts in on his right foot and then puts a bit of a tame shot wide of the goal. Early in the friendlies, he was a really, really big, important player for us, Bogger. Bogger, not sure, Bogger, let's go for that. And he played brilliantly and got a load of goals for us in the friendlies as well. So I'm expecting decent things from him. And there is the new striker, Nsame. Cross comes in from Toljan down the right-hand side of the box into a very crowded 6-yard box. And it's Nsame that gets above everybody else, I think, and puts it into the back of the net. Early on, Toljan does a great job to get to the byline, cuts it back. And it is Nsame that picks up that ball in the middle of the 6-yard box. Disappointing from the defenders, not disappointing from our striker. And we go 1-0 up after sort of 5 or 6 minutes of the game. There's a long ball over the top from Spezia, but they don't quite get that right. And Chiriches is able to pick up the loose ball. And he comes right the way into midfield. A really driving run by him from central defence. Locatelli and Lopez playing nice 1-2 in the middle of the park. Again, and then it's swept out wide left. Full back into the... Oh, and Nsame nearly got a chance again at the near post. Oh, it was so unlucky, really, but a very good cross from Papadopoulos, or whatever his name is. I'm not sure totally how to pronounce that one. I might have to shorten it to Pop or Popadop or something. I'm not sure. Let me know what you'd replace it with in the comments below, because I'm going to be useless at that one. Anyway, Boga with a ball back to Locatelli. He's always going to pick it up, isn't he? That guy that I can't talk about. It's going to happen all the way through the season, isn't it? I can feel it already. He's going to be a superstar for us, and I won't be able to say his name all the way through. Anyway, again, it's Spezia down the left-hand side. Again, having another opportunity to push us back a little bit and try out our defensive unit a little bit. And so far, they've held very firm, which is great to see. And then they again go right over the top with a very wayward ball. And we get to take it comfortably from the goalkeeper and send it through to defence out wide right to Berardi, who cuts in on his left foot. He's going to be doing that a lot for us. Juricic takes over, and Same's gone out wide right to take on the ball. And we work it very nicely to the top of the box. And then Locatelli with a fantastic driving shot from right at the top of the penalty box. And we go 2-0 up after 13 minutes. And Same getting involved down the right-hand side, drifts out, fills the channel that Berardi had left behind because he'd cut in. It's nice to see them working a rotation a little bit and finding the space and being intelligent enough to work that one out. They haven't played a lot together so far, and Same's only come into the club in the last sort of week or so. So that's really good to see. Very encouraging start. And it looks like we have really lucked out in terms of our first game, doesn't it? Until we get to this point, Bogger has picked up an injury, a potential foot injury. Now, this guy really was doing fantastically well for us. Let's go check him out. In the early season, in the friendly matches, he got 5 in 6 games in the friendlies. Can't afford to have him out for too long, really. 23 years old, not particularly injury prone in that sense, good natural fitness, so hopefully it won't be too bad. But we are going to have to take him out for the rest of today's game. So Haraslin will have to come in down that left-hand side. The way that I've set my lineup up between sort of the first 1 to 11, I've kind of replicated it on the bench, so I know roughly who to go to in terms of order of the numbers down the side. Just because it kind of helps me figure out who's who in a club when I'm not so sure about who they are. So we can confirm that and go back into the match and see if we can get as good a performance out of him as Bogger had been giving us from the early friendly matches specifically. Not so much today, a little bit quiet other than that one dragged shot across the face of the goal. Looks like we're going to go in at 2-0 after the first half, but there is one more highlight to go. A good clearance. Juricic picks it up down the left-hand side, drops it back to Locatelli, into Berardi, down to Nsame, and then a wild shot by him. But again, good build-up play from wide left to wide right, and a dropped-off header to Nsame. couldn't quite put the finish on it, but 2-0 up at half-time, fairly decent. I think we could potentially have pushed a little bit higher up the pitch at times and caused them a few more problems, but overall, we're going to go with the outstretched arms. I'm very pleased with how it's going. Keep it up, lads. We're going to go back into the shouts, and we're just going to say fire them up a little bit and just see if we can get them moving even further. They didn't like that at all. Firing up a team that are already 2-0 up apparently doesn't go down so well, but hopefully it'll make them at that cross with me that they'll go and produce a performance anyway. Berardi down the right hand side to Toljan, cuts it in, and Same with the header again. He's going to be a very good aerial presence, it looks like, but on this occasion didn't quite get it on target. And the highlight dies, and we get to 64 minutes, and it's been a little bit quieter in this second half. All of the unhappiness of my players seems to have gone away now. 71 minutes, we're going to pause the game there and just go and make a couple more substitutions just to see if we can protect a few players in the first outing of the season. So what have we got here? We can do... we're going to bring on this guy, Barabia. If we go and have a look at him, he'll play in the central midfield role instead of Locatelli. So we're going to bring him on. So he comes into the lineup. And he'll play the same role of the box-to-box midfielder, which is good. Haraslin not doing great as a replacement there, is he, unfortunately. Marlon also having a reasonably quiet game, but they haven't really challenged us so far. What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take Nsame off, and we're going to bring Caputo on just to give him a run out and keep that rotation policy of the strikers going and see if we can get them both scoring goals. And now the question is, in season 1, with all of the pandemic stuff and etc. that's going on, can we make more changes than the normal 3? Let's find out. We're going to take a gamble with Berardi and protect him, bring him out and bring the guy Vieira in. We can make more, so I suspect it's going to be 5. So we could make 1 more, and I'm going to make a defensive change. We're going to bring Rogério in down on that left-hand side because I can say his name, and that will make it a lot easier until I learn the names properly. Anyway, those are the changes we're going to make. We'd already made 1 earlier in the match, of course, because Bogger had come off injured. So this should take us through to the last few seconds of the game with no major problem, I wouldn't have imagined. 2-0. It was a good start to the match, but it's been a little bit toothless in this second half. We've had so many chances, like 25 shots at goal, I think it is at the moment, and only those 2 goals to show from it. Can we get a third one here? And it's back to Lopez, and then Toljan taking it over down that right-hand side. Again, back to Lopez. Barabia takes over, and a lovely driving effort by him, but a good parry round the post by the goalkeeper for a corner kick. And Vieira, the new guy, the on-loan right-sided winger, he takes the corner kick, but it's straight into the hands of the goalkeeper. Is that going to see us through? No, there's another corner kick taken by Vieira, and they get it partially cleared, but Toljan picks up the loose ball down the right-hand side into Juricic, and he crosses it in, and it's Haraslin, and he eventually makes good as a substitute who seemed to struggle for the first sort of half hour that he was brought on for. When we were looking at him 20 minutes ago in terms of game time, he wasn't having the best of games, but on this occasion came storming in off that far post, off that wing on the left-hand side to get in amongst the strikers and scored a brilliant header in the dying seconds of the match. And a very, very comfortable first game ends in a very good 3-0 win, but only to the point where we could potentially have done a little bit better. 17 shots on goal, on target should I say, from the 30 that we had on goal in total. A decent amount of possession, a decent amount of pass completed, and potentially we could have done a little bit more. But even so, 3 goals, 3 points in the bag, not a bad start at all. So just before we find out exactly who we're going to be playing next episode, we do have to look at this particular one. It's not that one, it's a Bogger. The injury to Bogger is not particularly good, is it? 3 to 4 weeks with sprained ankle ligaments. He's going to be out for the first month of the season, it looks like, and that's really disappointing. He was doing fantastically well in the friendlies, as I say, and I was hoping for good things from him, but that's the reason that we have a big squad, to be able to cope with these things. So he's going to have to wait for his chance to continue to impress us. In terms of the next episode, what the way that this particular series is going to work is that we've identified specific matches that both myself and Old Lady Plays are going to come and play each of our episodes. So we're playing at the same points in the season all the way through, and there's going to be 5 episodes in total. So the next game that we're coming back for is the 10th game in Serie A, and currently as we speak, I think that's this game here against Fiorentina in the early part of December. If there's a schedule for fixture lists of cup competitions and other bits and pieces, I don't know how it's going to work out, but ultimately whatever the 10th match in Serie A will be, that's the one we're coming back for. And at the moment, it's going to be Fiorentina. And at that point, I can catch you up on all of the other games that we've played between now and then, including a couple of really tricky ones against Zebra and Inter Milan as well, plus a couple of others in there. We're going to really know where we are by that point in the season when we come back, having had what was, to be honest, quite an easy start in terms of our first match. But that's basically going to do it today. If you've got any questions about any of the series, there is a brilliant video by the Custard Prophet. I'll see if I can remember to link that in the description below. That'll tell you everything you need to know about the Versus 5 series. For our point with Sassuolo, we've been predicted 9th in the league. I'd like to do a little bit better than that, but ultimately all that matters is that I try and get as many points on the table, on the board should I say, as possible, because that is what I get judged against Old Lady Plays, and however many points she gets with playing the same side of Sassuolo. So that's going to do it for today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and join my United City community. Go and check all of the other Versus 5 episodes that have come out this first weekend. There's 5 other ties between 2 content creators in each, so go and check them all out. Let me know who you think is going to win overall in terms of the UK team or the rest of the world team. But until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.